Hey everyone, I've got a serious question for you this morning. Do you ever spend your time learning different ways to get things done and never actually getting things done? Or maybe you do things, but you're not satisfied with the things that you're doing and you know that you could do better. Well, today we're going to talk about making some changes in the name of getting things done. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode number 76 of the All Around Growth podcast. This is a show where we talk about how and why we build the lives of our dreams by utilizing a particular type of personal growth and development referred to as all-around growth. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. Today is Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. And the title for today's show is Focus on Removing or Time for Integration. I really haven't figured that out. As I upload this, I will select one or maybe even choose both. Now, the decision for this show first stemmed from an email from my sister way back on December 7th. And she sent me this photo, and it wasn't really like a meme. It was just one of those inspirational type photos that you would see on Instagram or Pinterest or something like that. And it was just a white photo with some black text. And the text read, "Note to self, along with all the growth and healing, remember to give yourself time for integration," which is a fancy word for allowing shit to settle. It looks like doing nothing. This nothing is necessary. And I don't know if I think she sent that to me in a text or a Telegram message or something like that, but she wrote, "Maybe this is a good topic for the podcast. Seems contradictory, but it's not." And I wrote back to her, "I feel like that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years. Since August of 2016, basically." And August of 2016, that summer is kind of when I went through Burnout 2.0. Since August 2016, and especially this year in 2020, especially at work, at the day job. And she wrote, "But some people may need the reminder if they are hyper-focused on growth and productivity and advancement. Sharing your experience with that and advice on finding the right balance. If you feel your experience had too much time wrapped up in that, it might be helpful." So I said, "For sure. Thanks for the suggestion." And I made a note of it, like I make notes to follow up on a lot of things. And then on the 14th of December, I had a seizure. The third seizure I'd had this year. And then I basically spent a week recovering from that, more or less, even though I returned to work just a couple days later. And then it was the holidays. And on December 21st, I received an interesting email from Dan Miller. Again, I talk about Dan Miller a lot, author of 48 Days to the Work You Love. And I'm on his email list, and before I actually hit the road, I will read the email in its entirety because it is relevant to the story I'm about to share. The email reads as follows. "Merry Christmas, Rob. If you're still searching for the perfect gift for that special someone, consider investing in their personal development. To help you, we're having a flash sale, giving you 50% off on several of our online courses. No worries about shipping, going into a store, and whether or not it will get there on time. These courses include my new 48 Days to Master Your Mindset course, 2, Coaching with Excellence, a beginner course in becoming a coach, and 3, Find Your Focus Bundle, 3 audios and 1 video designed to help you discover your passion. Plus, we have a special opportunity for you to give someone or even yourself 2 months of membership in the Eagles community. But hurry, this flash sale ends tonight, Monday, December 21st at midnight. Stay inspired. Dan Miller. Okay. Well, if that isn't synchronicity, I don't know what is. I decided to pull the trigger on this email from Dan Miller after exploring that a little bit, and I took advantage of 50% off on the Find Your Focus bundle. And then that was on December 21st. Then we got into the holidays, and I didn't really explore it too much until after the Christmas holiday. And that is when I decided to put some time, effort, and energy into some writing, which was basically guided by the Find Your Focus bundle. There's a lot of ways that you can use the content that Dan Miller provides, and I choose to utilize it as a baseline or like guided writing exercises. And then I found myself exploring the 48 Days Eagles community, which I'd heard him talk about. And when I got in there, this little community is on a platform called Mighty Networks, and also utilizes a smartphone app in addition to what's available on your computer browser. And it is a fantastic little community full of resources and people that are crushing it. And it was the 48 Days Eagles community where I found this little snippet the other day and made a note of it as well. Quote, "I love the metaphor, Chet. Dan Miller talks in the podcast this week about not only focusing on what you're going to do or add, but also what you're going to stop doing to make room for the new and the next." Now, I wish I could trace back where I read that on that Mighty Networks community, and I'll talk more on that later in a future episode. But the reality is, I don't know where that particular note came from, and it's okay. I got the gist of it, and that's really what I was looking for on that particular note. But what happens, particularly with me, is that I've got a lot of content that I'm consuming. And now, well, more so now than in the past. I've always written and created content, but this is kind of encouraged me to up my game a little bit and the frequency with which I'm doing it. And there were a lot of objectives I had when I started this podcast, but and I regret nothing, okay? But there's a lot of content that I'm consuming, more than I'm actively creating, and I'm creating a lot of notes, some of which are unnecessary, admittedly, but I've got a lot of notes that are being captured and not processed accordingly. And this is part of what is contributing to me feeling overwhelmed and stressed out and just really not on point with the goals and tasks that I have. And accordingly, this show isn't really of the caliber that I want. I am doing the things that I want to be doing. but I want to dial that in a little bit more. I want to share that with you. I want to include you in the process, but I don't want to half-ass the process. I mean, I'm enjoying this in the format that I'm doing it, but I feel that this show can be better, and I feel that you deserve better. And then there was one third thing that happened that I heard and read that kind of sealed the deal on this episode today. And that was the following question. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? Now let me repeat that. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? Now, that question is actually the topic of an episode by Dan Miller on the 48 Days podcast that he released New Year's Day. And honestly, that was so good that I had to stop listening to it, and I wanted to listen to it when I was either in front of a computer or in a place where I could jot down some notes, because there's some good stuff in there. Now again, one final time, that question. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? It's an awesome question, and one really worth contemplating, and one that I did. And this question, along with additional dialogue with loved ones, the question or the consideration from my sister and that photo and the idea for the topic of today's podcast, my own goals and objectives, all of this has gotten me to the point where I've made the decision to scale back on several things in my life, and more specifically, I've made the decision to not only scale back, but to take action and do so. 3 frogs on a log, one decides to jump off, how many remain? 3. We gotta do instead of decide. So this year, I am not only going to focus on what I'm going to do or add to my schedule, to my routine, to my calendar, but I'm also going to focus on what I'm going to stop doing to make room for the new and the next. Now, in the beginning of the show, we asked ourselves a couple questions. Do you ever spend your time learning different ways to get things done and never actually getting things done? Or maybe you do things, but you're not satisfied with the things you're doing, and you know that you could do better. Well, those two questions basically came out of the Telegram chat from Andy after a video that I made and shared with them last night. That's the cool thing about that chat, is there's certain things that go on that are specific to that group that don't take place in the Facebook group or on Twitter or anywhere else. And those two questions, or the question that Andy asked that generated those two questions, were really spot on. do we spend our time learning different ways to get things done and never actually get those things done? Well, I know that I have, and scaling back on a few things is going to allow me to focus on optimizing my life. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's optimizing your life. Finding ways to do so. Focusing on personal growth, spiritual growth, business growth, all around growth. So I'm going to focus on optimizing this podcast in the way that I feel is appropriate and necessary, and also based on the feedback from you guys. And one of the ways I'm going to focus on optimizing this podcast, most likely, is going to be recording once a week instead of once a day. And the holidays and doing a couple recordings over coffee at home got me accustomed to that idea, and I realized that I can access notes better. I can focus more on the dialogue that we're having with one another, and also I think that's, and also by doing so, that's just going to allow a higher quality end result. And if you guys are going to grace me with your time, then I want to ensure that the content that I'm putting out there is worth it. Because our time is important, and it's just too valuable to spend on something that could be considered a less than optimal. So I'll likely ride out the rest of the week on the commute series in the mornings before making that change. And but that's it. I wanted to give you guys that update. I wanted to share that with you, and I'm curious about I'm curious about feedback. So anyways, if you have some and you would like to provide some feedback to me, or any ideas on future episodes or anything like that, send them my way at allaroundgrowth@gmail.com. Or another way you can provide feedback to the show is join the Telegram group on your internet browser, on your desktop or your laptop at t.me/allaroundgrowth. Or if you've got a smartphone or a tablet, download the Telegram Messenger app and search for the group All Around Growth. And last but not least, if you like what you hear and you want to support the show, the best way that you can do that is go to the show notes, go all the way to the bottom. There's a link to click to rate and review the podcast. Real quick, you can give a 5-star rating or review the podcast with a brief written review, and that goes a long way. That link goes to the Apple Podcasts website and helps out with the algorithms there. So if you would do that, I would be very grateful for that. And if you don't, that's okay too. I just appreciate your time. I appreciate you being a part of the community here with us. And again, would ultimately encourage you to check us out on Telegram. There are some cool, there's some cool dialogue taking place there, and we'd love to hear from you. So That's it, everybody. This is Rob Kaiser, and you've been listening to the All Around Growth Podcast. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.